Good morning and welcome to Talking Cafe Live. My name is Lucy Tobias and I am one of the village agents from the Community Council for Somerset. I am going to give it a couple of moments. Thank you to all those joining us. Pop up a little banner about what it is that we're doing today. And I am going to be joined by Rhys Davis this morning. So I can see that people are jumping on. Pop a comment in the comments box to let me know that you are here. Welcome to those that are joining who have been with Talking Cafe since the beginning. We're a couple of months in now. Or perhaps those that are here for the first time. I see that we've got the lasting powers of attorney here. Chrissy, good morning to everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Mihail. Today we are going to be talking about the micro providers, which is a wonderful system that we have here in Somerset to support people who need support at home. So that it's older people, people that have some physical or mental health problems and need a little bit of help at home. So Rhys, it looks like that we are both live, and so I'm going to introduce Rhys Davis. Welcome, Rhys. It's great to have you here. Rhys, perhaps you want to explain what your role is and how you fit into all of this.
Okay. Thanks, Lucy, and hi everyone. I'm Rhys Davis, and I coordinate something called the Micro Enterprise Program in Somerset. And so, essentially, I've been sort of working. Historically, I worked for a social enterprise called Community Catalysts. And now I work within the council to essentially support the development of small, local, independent care and support services. So when we talk about micro providers, we talk about local people providing local support. And and in essence, Lucy, my role is to for anybody who has an idea, who wants to make a difference in their community, who's got a bit of background in the caring role, my role is to give them a bit of help, a bit of information, a bit of advice so they can explore and test whether it's right for them or not.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. And my personal experience of micro providers and the system that is used in Somerset is so effective and really does bring together those people that have a need, my hand's slightly off screen, with those that can support and provide the support that those people need together, and thus we have the micro provider network. Excellent. So we may have people that are joining us today that have never heard of micro providers, and of course there are other CCS colleagues who have heard of micro providers and they know what it is. And so I think it's always best, from my perspective, to, we're spooling a bit, to talk as if nobody knows anything and start from the beginning, because then even if people do know, there's something new that they could find out. So what would you describe a micro provider as?
So a micro provider for us is somebody who operates a service of support, who provides some help or care or support to anybody in their community who, through, I suppose, age or illness or disability, needs some help to live their lives. We, like to say, for us, a micro provider, you tend to have less than 8 people employed or volunteering. It could be volunteer groups, it could be small social enterprises, but the key characteristics to become a micro provider is that you are small and you are independent and you provide local support to local people. And a vast majority of our micro providers in Somerset are self-employed and offer people like you mentioned at the time, at the start, a bit of help to stay independent and well at home or access the community. So in terms of what is a micro provider, for us, it's those people who, micro providers are nothing new in terms of, a service provision. We in Somerset have been supporting them for the last 6 years, but really it's sort of how care used to be, 20, 30 years ago. It was local people in villages and communities caring for each other. And I think we've lost a little bit of that over time. And through this program, we want to recapture that and revive it, really, that sort of local care economy, but put some frameworks around it so people can be confident around the quality and standards. So that's, really.
That's great. Yeah. Excellent. And that's a really great way to describe it. And it sounds exactly as I know it. So the thing that's coming to my mind as we speak is that over these past few months, there've been a lot of volunteer groups. So micro providers are a paid service. Is that how correct? Yes.
Well, technically, we're here to help anybody who has an idea for any type of service, whether that's voluntary or paid. But I would agree with you that our specialism is around helping people to set up a paid for service, whether that's somebody who self-funds their care and support or somebody with a direct payment. So usually the way that I would see micro providers fitting is that you have, your volunteer groups, your good neighbours, all of those amazing things that happen in communities where communities look after each other. And, then you have the really formal care services, your residential care homes, your domiciliary care agencies, and micro providers fit in between, for those people who need a bit of support, but, need it on a regular basis. And, they need somebody who's trained, who's skilled, who has experience. And, for people who want to self-manage or self-direct their care, micro providers are a really great option. They really fit into that realm, I suppose. I suppose in Somerset, just to give maybe a little bit of context, I suppose 6 years ago, in Somerset, we in social services, people might not have heard it. There's something called a direct payment, which is a budget that people can have to purchase their own care and support and have real choice and control in their care. And in Somerset, we weren't doing too well, in essence, sort of 5-6 years ago. In fact, I think we had one of the lowest uptakes of direct payments in the country. And a big reason for that is because people were saying, well, what's the point in having my pot of money if I've got nothing to choose from? And so that's really was the key driver for the development of micro providers in Somerset, so we could give people wherever they live, a better choice of local, flexible support services.
And that's really great history, because it's good to understand. And I know that in other counties this service isn't available, and people will have to that need some care at home kind of look to care agencies, and then it's kind of it's only one option, whereas micro providers provide such a wide variety of individuals, both those needing care and those that are able to provide care, and knits them together. So one of my colleagues in the office says that their grandfather had a home help back in the day, and if older people ask them what a micro provider is, they tell them that it's home helps that can offer more in terms of personal care support and go further than what historic home help used to be, and they understand that. So that's great.
Yeah, and it's I suppose the way that I think about it is that, I suppose a good life to you, Lucy, is probably very different than a good life to me. It might be some similarities, but we're all different. And actually, if we need a bit of help to live our lives, well, we need things out there to reflect that. And so it is about your home help, but it's also about quirky or unusual things. We've got, you know, in Somerset, we've got the UK's first disabled strongman, you know, who supports other people to do tractor pulls and lifting stones, and, you know, supports people who might not want to access, you know, the gym, or might not be able to access the gym. You know, so that's Gary in Ilminster, right through to Alex, Alex Rowland, who is a bit of a micro provider poster boy, who does, you might have seen, he's got amazing dreadlocks and earrings, and he does, you know, his bit is IT support for people with a learning disability, you know. And actually, so we have, you know, from that, you've got people who specialize in end of life care to, you know, to a real variety of supports. And actually, that's the bit that I think is great about micro providers. They do provide that home help, but they also have such a variety and diversity within them that it sort of reflects the reality of people's lives. Yeah.
And this is such an amazing live, because talking to you and hearing that, you know, I wasn't aware of those particular micro providers that you mentioned. You know, I work with micro providers every day. So those people that are new to CCS, the Community Council for Somerset, and micro providers, I am a village agent, and I'm one of around 50 other agents in the Somerset area that support people who have a wide variety of needs and need somebody to sort of help them find things when something's going wrong. So we work with a lot of older people, people where, you know, something, they need a little bit of support, and a vast majority or big chunk of the work that the CCS agents do is put in place micro providers. And simply hearing about the micro providers that you mentioned there, I've already thought of a couple of clients that I can bring together perhaps with some of those that you mentioned. I think what the next thing that comes to mind is sometimes there's a huge database now of micro providers, and for families or individuals, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. You've got this huge list, even if it's broken down with counties. So maybe, Reece, do you have any wise words for people about how to begin?
No, absolutely. And, you know, I think before you think about micro provider as an option, it's important to say it's horses for courses. It's the way I always describe using micro providers, because they're not for everybody. Because it's important to know a vast majority of our micro providers don't meet the requirements to be regulated by the Care Quality Commission. So the legal basis on which they operate is under you as the customer's control and direction, which is amazing, which is the way that care should always be, is under the family's direction and control. But some families understandably say, actually, we don't want to have control. We just want to have it organised for me. And, you know, we don't want to hold that responsibility, in which case micro providers may not be an option. But if you say, actually, I want somebody who's local, I want somebody who I want to build a relationship with, I know what I want, when I want it, and how I want it, I suppose top tips for using micro providers would be probably, actually, I don't want to give you too much work here, Lucy, is to go through an agent, or, you know, like almost like a trusted broker, because the advantage that what agents have got, I sort of recognise that the experience of families is not fantastic, of getting a list of, you know, could be 300 micro providers, you know, and having to phone up and say, have you got availability? You know, here's what we're looking for. That can be very frustrating for a lot of people. But in terms of sourcing, you know, support, what we have in Somerset is we've got formed small networks. So in each area of Somerset, we have networks where people where there are WhatsApp groups and there are email addresses where people can put in an inquiry, it gets sent out to a network, and those who have availability or capacity can get back to either an agent or the people looking for care themselves. And I would say, have a look on our Facebook page. So it's Facebook.com/Somerset Micro Providers for more information about that, about your local networks, because we can link you to source your care, and support a little bit easier. But my other top tips would be thinking, bear in mind you are in control, is to check them out first, to make sure they're doing what you want in a way, and at a time that suits you. So I would be, checking their portfolio. So the important things for you to know is every provider who comes through us and the program has signed up and agreed to a standard that we think doing it right means. And so, every provider has come onto our startup surgery and has developed their service in accordance with best practice and has provided us with some information that they have set up. So, we see their DBS check and their insurance and their contract and their support plan templates and their complaints procedure, things like that. But ultimately, it's between you as a customer and them. So, my recommendation is you sit down with them and you interview them and you make sure that it's a good fit and they've got the right background, experience and skills that are going to be right for you. So it's about going shopping but being aware that actually there isn't the same rigor that goes with regulations. So if you want that flexible service, just make sure that you are happy to take on that, interview them, make sure they're right, and be selective. That would be my suggestion. And if you do have a problem, we are here. That would be my other bit. We are here in the Village Agency here as well. That's the bit, is that we want to give families and people confidence about the providers that have come through our program. So in terms of best practice, that's my sort of top tips, I suppose. Yeah.
Ace, thank you. That's really good. And I really feel what you said about knowing what it is that you want is really key. I'm going to get rid of the banner for a moment. Here we go. Because I talk with my hands. So I think it is really key to understand, either as an individual or a family or those supporting somebody, and us as agents, is to talk with the individual that's going to receive the support to see what it is that they want, and how often, some people have a particular preference, whether they want a male or female someone support on a specific day, and sometimes that works and it can all come together. Other times it doesn't, but it's a great place to begin with what does somebody want, because then you can ask that question and something just gets put in place. The end user who's receiving the support, isn't going to be happy, and that's the best outcome, when those receiving the support feel supported and are able to remain independent, have a positive change, and so forth. So a colleague of mine has asked a question with regards to charges. So this is a really great place for us to go on to. I know there is a standard. Could you talk a little bit about that, Reese, please?
Yeah, and I suppose that standard has been co-designed between us at the council and the micro providers over the last 5 years, and it includes some almost like a code of conduct, things that we would expect for care for our own family. We'd expect it's responsive, it's person-centered, it values people and their gifts. We want people to charge a fair price, and I'll go into that shortly. We want people not to let people down. We honour commitments, be reliable, all of those bits that we would expect of our service. And we also expect every provider to have a portfolio with their training, their DBS, with insurance, and we have almost a contract with our providers, say we will support you and we will endorse you if you meet these are generally agreed standards, so we all know where we are and where we sit. Now, included in that is a fair pricing policy. Now, I suppose the important thing to note is that all micro providers are independent. They set their own prices. They are self-employed very often. it is up to them what they charge. You know, you will find people doing maybe home help, lower level supports, charge less than people who might do complex care supports. But we have a fair pricing policy. And so in Somerset, we did a survey of all micro providers, and the average price of a micro provider in Somerset came out at around just a touch over £15 an hour. Okay, so that's something that's important for you to note. That said, there may be specialist services that charge a little bit above that. But as a programme, if there is a micro provider charging above £17 an hour, and that's a figure that's come about because for people with complex healthcare requirements, the NHS will pay a ceiling of £17 an hour for that complex care. So we've set that as a programme sort of ceiling. So micro providers should fall within that, obviously maybe excluding bank holidays, Christmas Day and the likes. And that would be deemed as fair, essentially. And then, but my bit around pricing is to negotiate, with micro providers. It's not, for example, people with a direct payment might be giving a less, might be given, I think the direct payment rate in Somerset or social care funded support is £14, 15 I know a vast number of micro providers who say, well, actually, that's fine. We will be flexible within that rate. So my suppose advice would be saying, shop around, negotiate, and obviously if you do feel or find providers charging in excess of that fair pricing policy, let us know.
That's great. That's really helpful. So people can look to pay somewhere between £15 and £17 roughly, but there is an option to negotiate and talk about it with the micro provider dependent on what the situation is. Okay, so you mentioned about some of the complex care and perhaps there might be an increase in the cost for that. In my experience working with individuals and micro providers, some people do need care overnight. So is the recommendation that there is a higher cost, or, because that obviously it's not a day service, it's something a bit more where people are going to have to be there overnight. Is the cost the same or a bit more?
For night care, it's tricky because as a program, we as the company, they're independent, and we're just trying to create a loose framework, a standard, a set of standards. But we don't want to stipulate what everybody should charge for a certain type of service, because actually I think that's up to the providers themselves. But our pricing policy would still, if people were doing a big chunk of night care, then absolutely that price rate would still factor in that as well. So that would be, people do. I've heard lots of figures. And it would be fair for me to sort of, some people just say I have a set night rate, but it still falls well within the average, within the fair pricing limit. So.
Ace, that's really great. That's great. So I'm going to pop up a little banner because, as Reece mentioned, for those people that are looking for some support, it is really great to come through CCS, the Community Council for Somerset, to support and broker new relationship, because agents have experience to inquire what the individual needs and ask some of those questions that perhaps the family or there might be somebody on their own don't know, and then they can sort of broker and give a choice, and then it's also not so overwhelming. So yeah, we very much do work in partnership with the micro provider network, and that is something which is ongoing. I am going to quickly check on the comments. So just somebody's asking a question. So somebody's asked the WhatsApp group about the WhatsApp group. So I know I am one of the Taunton agents, and I am in the WhatsApp group for the micro providers in Taunton. I am guessing that not everyone can join the WhatsApp group, and so all customers or clients that are looking for micro providers, this isn't an option for all. Is that right?
That's correct. So they have so the network groups have been set up, for around peer support primarily, because actually, as a self-employed, micro provider, you're quite isolated. It's about getting support. It's about information. Finding alternative cover, maybe if you're sick or on holiday. And so the WhatsApp groups have just developed in different areas. And over the years, we've put some rules around them, or they've put some rules around it. So they each have their own code of conduct. They have like an induction process into a network. And what they've done is they've set up separate groups, which, let's call referrers are part of, or professionals. So that if people are looking for care, it comes through that broker or referrer, and they can put it in there so that people can access, it's a more straightforward process for sourcing care. However, you mentioned Taunton. There's lots of areas, so it's worth having a look at, say, Taunton Trusted Providers. They're on Facebook. They've got a Facebook page, and they have got an email address. Most networks have email addresses as well, where you can email them your inquiry, and that will be sent to the network. So in terms of for public out there, it might be emailing tauntontrustedproviders@gmail.com, and they will pass that information on to their members. If you're looking for for help or support. Actually,
that's really great. So it would be ace if somebody from the CCS office team could pop a link somewhere over there in the box for us with the link to the various different networks. So in Taunton, it's Taunton Trusted Providers. So we also have agents and viewers from other areas. What's it called in Sedgemoor? What's their network called?
So, well, I think Bridgewater Micro.
I'm putting you on the spot here, sorry.
That's right. No, that's fine. The Bridgewater Micro Provider Network, and I think it's Bridgewater Micro Providers @gmail.com would be their contact details. I don't know if Nikki's here, listening in, but she's a network lead. Each area has a network lead, like a development group, and they have more rules around it. And essentially, as a council, we endorse a network, providing we share the same standards, and the same values around sort of doing it right. So, there's plenty of networks available, but we on Somerset Community Connect, so on our online database where you can find all individual micro providers, we also have links to the network. So there is information around how to find your local networks, or I'd say again, find your local agent who will be able to support you to tap in or to get that information through. Because it's and I think it's a really good thing. It's led by providers. We support, we endorse, we sit in the background. It's not as a streamlined process, because actually we don't own it, manage it. It's developed by providers for providers, and we support them to do that and essentially promote them.
Ace, thank you. So, looking at the comments, there's a micro provider in Wellington that's asking about their network. Would that be Taunton Trusted Providers?
Yeah. So there's we're developing. It's, I suppose, the first step for you, Fiona, would be just to email us. communityenterprise@somerset.gov.uk. It's just or via the Somerset Micro Providers Facebook group. Just let us know where you're from, and we can link you in with your local network, and make sure that you're the journey either to become a micro provider. If you're already a micro provider, that's fab. We just what we'd want is to make sure that everybody has gone through the same process and signed up in the same way, so that then when we have village agents and referrers on the groups, they know that they can expect the same thing of all providers. Essentially, we stand back a little bit, and if there's a problem, we have a quality assurance process where we can support and deal with any issues that come through forward. So,
Ace, thank you. So it's great to have all the interactions. Please do keep the comments coming. Thank you to Hannah for popping up the links. So somebody else has asked, and it's a really great timing because I want to talk a little bit about the other side, which is people that are looking to step into something new and become a micro provider. Can you talk about that, please? About, there's lots of people at the moment that are finding themselves without work and have lots of skills and expertise. How does one become a micro provider?
So essentially, we have a development program where it's all free and there's no time limit. Essentially, we offer information, support, and advice. We have weekly startup surgeries. We have network meetings. We got one this afternoon. We had one last night. We have lots and lots of meetings where we help people with ideas who it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a professional experience of the caring role. You might have a personal experience of the caring role. You might have cared for your parents, or been in a situation where you say, actually, I think I could do better, or there's a gap, or I've always wanted to work for myself. But the big key driver is we're looking for people with the right values, with the right motivation, and people who care, because it doesn't work if you don't. And I can say lots of people have tried to set up with the wrong sort of motivation, and it doesn't work, because through the program and actually for customers, they say it's people know. So what I'll be saying is just make contact with us. We'll send you some information. You can dip in or dip out as much as you want, and what we want to do is to give people, I suppose, the confidence and the tools to be able to test it and to try it. Now, it might be for you and it might not be for you. That's fine, but I think what we've tried to do in Somerset is create the conditions where you can speak to other micro providers, you can find out what the realities are like. And I suppose the bit that I've learned from doing this for 5 years is that actually I don't matter too much in the process. The best chance of people setting up is when they speak to a micro provider in their area. So I think what we're quite good at is building links and networks. And so what we would hope is that we would give you all of the information and maybe a few networks and introduce you to a few existing providers so you could think, is this for me or not? And if it is, we'll give you a step-by-step process on how to set up and to develop. Okay, so I suppose that's our offer to micro providers. If you meet our standards, if you agree with our way that we think care should be provided in Somerset, we'll work together. Let's work together, and no pressure, no time scales or anything like that. So.
Ace, that's really useful. So let's say, for example, I am Joe Blogs. Everyone loves that term, and I'm curious about micro providing. So is it a startup surgery would be my first sort of port of call?
Yeah, I suppose the first port of call is we'd just send you a bit of information. We'd send you something called our offer to micro providers. So to start with, here's our standards. Here's what we think good care looks like. And if you agree with our standards, let us know. And then, once you've once you've read and you think, actually, yes, I agree that this is something that I'm interested in and I want to do, and I've read some information, we'd say, yeah, come along to a startup surgery. We'll give you a startup guide. We will link you with other providers. And, we've got, I think we should have Michael on this chat as well. We've got people like Michael.
I think Michael is, Mihail.
Mihail, that's it. Yeah. Mihail, who's we've got people at CCA whose role it is to support people on your journey. So it's, I'd just say, just find out, just have a little bit of information, speak with a local network, speak with other micro providers, And what we look to do at our startup surgery is cover the legal and regulatory basis for micro providers, because it's really important you understand your boundaries and your limitations. We'll talk to you about the practical considerations. What do I do? Registering self-employed. Oh my goodness, I've never been self-employed before. Yeah, don't worry, that's fine. We can cover that bit. We cover building your portfolio. A big thing for people is thinking, oh my goodness me, policies and procedures or contracts, or getting the paperwork side of it in place. And we'd say also, we wouldn't expect anybody to be an expert at marketing the service, getting your portfolio together, but you have to have the right motivation. You have to be organized. And, and there's lots of support available. So some people can do it in 2 weeks, and some people it takes them, they inquire and they do it in a year's time. It doesn't matter to us. We're here if you need us, essentially.
That's ace. That's ace. So, would they email the community enterprise email address? Yeah. So we've got a couple of email addresses here. So there's to contact Reese. So say, for example, you are watching and you feel that you have a desire and a value system to support somebody in their own home, or maybe outside if you're a strong man and you're lifting a tire.
Yeah.
You have a desire to support another individual, whatever it is that your skill set is. You can email communityenterprise@somerset.gov.uk. You can also have a look at the Facebook page, which the banner is showing on this live, or call the mobile number there, which I believe is yours, Reese, and you can inquire there. Is that right?
Is it? Yes, that is my number.
07788.
I changed it last year, so yeah, that is my number. Yeah.
Great. Okay. The easiest way is probably to drop an email, look at the Facebook page, and then Reese can walk you through the steps. Mihail has shared his email address, which is enterpriseccssagent@gmail.com, to inquire with CCS about how we can support you. And I know Mihail is working with some of the other communities, the BME communities, and those people that perhaps don't have English as a first language. Please do inquire with Mihail on that email. Is there anything else perhaps that we could talk about with regards to that process? You mentioned about linking in with other micro providers, which I feel is a really key one, so that someone can have a chat with someone who's already doing the job.
Yeah, and I think our best micro providers are what I would describe as unlikely entrepreneurs. People who are frustrated or with the system and feel that they want to be liberated from a system, to do it in a way that works for them. But I think the characteristics of this unlikely entrepreneur is usually actually that maybe they have felt undervalued, or maybe lacking confidence, in terms of saying, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that," but there's something that's stopping them. And I think it is through those links and those networks that people build up that confidence to actually do it or test it. And so, I would be saying, I think for people, it's there's nothing, coming along and speaking to people is, and speaking to providers and just listening and, and seeing what's involved is probably a good first step. And I suppose it's, even just out of curiosity, I think that would be a good route.
Excellent. So obviously things have changed a little bit in the last few months, and the startup surgeries used to be face-to-face. So I'm guessing that those have moved online now.
Yes, yeah. So it's we've done a lot of the last 5 months. We have a new sort of accreditation process, so providers can have a badge, an ID badge saying I'm accredited, approved provider. We have a weekly startup surgery. We have network meetings. We've got one this afternoon on the Mental Capacity Act. We had one last week on direct payments, on getting the right insurance, on we've had Raj and CCS talk about how the agents work. We have links to training, so we have some of our micro providers now set up to offer training to other micro providers, and so over the years we've developed a big network where we can share information, make sure everybody is sort of upskilled, so that we can give families the most confidence when and you guys as professionals the most confidence when using a type of provision that historically has sat outside, which it does sit outside of regulation because of its size and the way that it operates. So it's there's lots of developments that have happened over the last sort of 5 or 6 months, and we I suppose the other bit is, and I suppose that the big question people have is there going to be enough work? If I set up as a micro provider, is there going to be enough work? And I think probably you're probably better placed to answer that than me, Lucy, maybe. So, because, you're out there and you see the demand and
yes, definitely. I often hear that, especially from new micro providers say to me, will there be enough work? Or I'm worried if I lose this one, will I get that one? And my personal experience as working as an agent for CCS is there's always work, because there are always people support. Similarly, people always need to eat. It's the same kind of thing, and there will always be a revolving system where there are new people, people that are coming out of hospital, people that are older, people, that their family circumstances change, health conditions. There's such a wide variety, and there also is such a wide variety of micro providers that offer huge amounts of different services. And in fact, actually, outside of this, I think I'm going to have a chat with you, Reese, about inquire the different kinds of providers, and it might be good for us to broker something between CCS agents and micro providers, because for a lot of us, we know, I'm in the WhatsApp group, many agents are in the WhatsApp groups, but then there are other providers that aren't in the WhatsApp groups or that offer a specialist service, and who knows?
There's a big job to do there. I agree. I totally agree. There's a big job to do there. And I suppose, just adding on to the work bit, I think, I've never been proved wrong in the last 5 or 6 years. If you have the right values and motivation, if you are organized, if you have the right background and experience and skill set, and if you can, hopefully through the program, be well networked, if you've got those 4 ingredients in place, it's, you are well set up to become a micro. Without any of those 4 ingredients, it may not be for you. But it's about being networked, being organized, having the right background experience, and importantly, having the right values and motivation to set up in the first place.
The desire to want to support somebody, really, isn't it? And that intention, values and beliefs is just so key. I think it goes all. So I'm going to quickly ask if anybody has any questions, please stick them in the comments box, which hopefully I did try and point, but my hands are off screen. But the comments box here on this live, if you've got any questions for myself or Reese. And I'm just going to do a little plug for Mihail's webinar. So Mihail is running a project for the micro providers, and has created an event which is going to be on Sunday, the 9th of August at 7 p.m. It's specifically designed for Polish community, so it will be broadcast in Polish, and there is more information about it on the link in the comments, Facebook events. That's great. Now a quick look. Yeah, as Fiona says, if we can all work together and have a similar value system and belief system, you know, we're away. So it's looking like there are no more comments or questions, Reese. So a huge thank you. Hearing about all of the work that you're doing, I'm amazed that you've got a minute to yourself to have a cup of tea. So thank you so much for taking this time out to come on this live, because it's hugely invaluable work that you are doing, and all of the micro providers, and you are very much part of that process. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. And I suppose I always describe myself more of a, you know, sort of cheerleader, really, because actually, you know, a lot of what we're doing is on the back of all the work that the networks and the providers are doing, and I suppose we're in the background just putting a little bit of a framework around it. So it's, yeah, no, it's exciting times, and you know, and I think it's, you know, it is shaking up the way care is and support is delivered in Somerset, and giving people sometimes for the first time a bit of choice and a bit of control in their care, which can't be a bad thing. So yeah, no, thank you very much. It's really great.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, enabling people to come together and yeah, do something new, have choice. Epic. So thank you all for watching, whether you're watching live or on the replay, and that's it from us. Bye for now.
Great stuff. Cheers all.